Very good. Okay, my name is Tyler Dewey. I'm the Executive Director for Bike Athens, local 501c3 nonprofit. And I'm here for the second time tonight talking about a project to build a sidewalk along Vincent Drive. So the mission of this project is to provide the basic infrastructure for Vincent Drive, increase safety, health, and quality of life for the people who live along the corridor, and fulfill the goals of Athens in Motion, Envision Athens, SPLOST 2020, and the Athens-Clarke County government. The goal is to build a sidewalk to provide safe access and opportunity for people who live close to Vincent Drive. The objectives are to create equitable infrastructure, improve transportation connections, particularly by linking the neighborhoods and the surrounding houses to transit, link to destinations like the Holland Youth Sports Center, and to create infrastructure that can be used by people of all ages and abilities. So again, this is just a quick summary of what the project entails. And I think in discussing this project, we need to think especially about how it connects to amenities like the Holland Youth Sports Complex. We need to keep thinking about how transportation and access are combined. We build wonderful facilities, but we often don't consider how people are going to get there. We assume everyone has access to a car, so we engineer streets in which everyone has to drive. Earlier this year, I heard a respected national transportation equity and policy expert, Charles T. Brown, and he said it best. He said, proximity doesn't equal access. So in this case, a sidewalk actually will provide more access to the Holland Youth Sports Complex. Current conditions for Vincent Drive: there are no sidewalks. Here is taken at the intersection of Jefferson River Road and Vincent Drive. You can see the beginnings of a desire trail where people are walking out to the bus stops. Route 8 services Vincent Drive. Multiple stops along the corridor. This is an image of all the plots along Vincent Drive. So we see that even if there may not be as many streets directly facing Vincent Drive or on Vincent Drive, there are a lot of people within easy walking distance of Vincent. Currently, Vincent Drive has a high speed limit. This is 45 miles an hour. I was once at a workshop held by the Federal Highway Administration, in which they noted that a 40 mile an hour street is considered a high-speed street. So here we see one at 45. In Georgia, oftentimes you're not going to get stopped or get a ticket unless you're going at least 10 miles over the speed limit. So effectively, this street has a speed limit of 55 miles an hour. I keep thinking about this little residential tag, in which somebody has noted that this is a residential corridor and people should travel at residential speeds, and yet we have speeds, again, of 45, 55, if not higher, along the corridor. Here are photos of some of the bus stops along Vincent Drive. Very few have a little uncovered bench with a garbage can. Some are right up against the curb line or fog line. As Drew mentioned in his presentation, high speeds create increased risks. So at 40 miles an hour, pedestrians have a 15% survival rate. As he mentioned, the faster you go, the more exponential the damage caused by a car. So imagine what happens if somebody's going 45, 55, or 60 miles an hour. Here, we can see the motorist's field of vision as you're driving along at 45 miles an hour. So if you're going 45, 50, 55, your field of vision may not capture the person waiting for the bus. Imagine trying to wait for the bus early in the morning or walking home late at night where you're right against the edge of the fog line. It doesn't leave a lot of room for error. It's not just bus stops. Again, going to leave out your recycling, pick your recycling up late at night, you are right next to a high-speed roadway with no shoulder and just a few inches of pavement past the fog line. So, based on current conditions alone, I would argue that Vincent Drive desperately needs a sidewalk, but I'll continue to talk about the ways equity, community support, safety, health, and economics all argue for a sidewalk along Vincent Drive. So equity. I've sat in on a couple of these presentations, and all the presenters have talked about equity. I will make an equitable argument for sidewalks along Vincent Drive, but I want to talk more about what equity means, how we define it, and why I think this project is equitable. So again, in the SPLOST 2020 goals, we have a definition of equity as redress for historical and current socioeconomic, racial, age and or ability-related inequality. Another transportation advocate working out of Chicago has defined it as the fair, just distribution of transportation resources, prioritizing communities that need the most. Communities that need the most get the most. Equity is not about the value of your stocks. It is about fairness. It is about justice. That red line is where Vincent Drive is in the community. According to the data from the Athens Wellbeing Project, in this school choice zone, 34% of the children under 18 live in poverty. This is the data for households that do not have access to an available vehicle. This means no vehicle. It doesn't include families that may only have one vehicle. So again, we see this area that includes Vincent Drive as having one of the higher percentage in Clarke County of areas that have no available vehicle at the household level. And then in Athens in Motion, it notes that in Clarke County, at least 1/3 of the population is too young, too old, infirm, or unable or unwilling to drive. In addition, 1/4 of households only have one car or access to no car, leaving a substantial percentage of the population reliant for transportation via something other than a motor vehicle. Of course, there is no easier form of transportation than using your own 2 feet or walking to a bus stop. Vincent Drive neighborhood is one of the most racially diverse in all of Athens-Clarke County. And even Athens in Motion, Drew mentioned that they talked about criteria, and they talked about equity in prioritizing projects. And these are the criteria and the factors that they looked at. Again, they looked at, does this area have a lot of road with no sidewalk? Clearly, Vincent Drive does. Does it get serviced by bus? Yes. Do we have households with no vehicle? Yes, yes, yes. All these factors are one of the reasons why Vincent Drive was a Tier 1 project and is a Tier 1 project as defined by the recently accepted Athens in Motion project. Of course, Vincent Drive sidewalks also have a lot of community support. One of the reasons that Bike Athens picked this project is because we have heard a lot of talk in the community for a long time about how Vincent Drive needs to either have lower speeds and or sidewalks. We've heard it filter just to our organization. We've also heard commissioners talk about it, say Vincent Drive is something I hear about a lot. They need sidewalks out on Vincent Drive. There's also a lot of raw data that suggests that the community supports projects. So again, this is from the Athens Wellbeing Project. When they asked the areas that include Vincent Drive, what do you want to see in your communities? They want walking paths and trails. Walking paths, trails, improved sidewalk, again, are some of the most desired amenities. Vincent Drive Sidewalk also has connections to future projects. Here is Vincent Drive. T-SPLOST is currently in concept design to build a sidewalk along Jefferson River Road. The Greenway Commission presented a SPLOST project to build Greenway to Holland Youth Sports Center and back towards downtown. Vincent Drive Sidewalk would allow people to access those newly built facilities. Of course, we heard that they are also building and asking for money to renovate the Holland Youth Sports Complex. The sidewalk will provide access for more people to walk there if they so choose. There's also a huge safety benefit. So Athens in Motion, again, mentioned the level of comfort. Vincent Drive, due to its high speeds and no sidewalk, has one of the highest levels of discomfort that you can have. The only one higher is the loop, which doesn't allow pedestrians or bikes on it, Atlanta Highway. So it's about as bad as it can get without barring people from walking or riding a bike along it. Envision Athens noted that there's been an increase in pedestrian and bicycle crashes. This is from the UGA Transportation Safety Research and Evaluation Group. So Drew mentioned how we have one of the highest crash rates in all of Georgia at number 4. That equals between August of 2015 and August of 2018, there were 18,000 crashes reported in Athens-Clarke County. It's too many to log individually. So here's a heat map of all injury crashes. So again, this is not all crashes. This is just the crashes where injuries occurred. We see Vincent Drive appearing on that heat map. It's not the reddest, but also I think about this is for all crashes, probably motor vehicle. You think about what we've done on Vincent Drive, and we've made it safe for pedestrians by making it so uncomfortable and unappealing for pedestrians that most people don't even walk on it. Sidewalks work. 65 to 89% reduction in crashes involving pedestrians. So if you think about the risk involved, it can do a great job of eliminating those risks for people walking along the roadway. I think of this, obviously it's too late to go back and rebuild Vincent Drive, but transportation agencies should work to incorporate pedestrian facilities unless exceptional circumstances exist. They talk about transit locations. Again, Vincent Drive is served by the Athens bus, so we should expect to see a lot of people walking along Vincent Drive. Sidewalks can provide people a place to walk, so it can help fight our obesity problem. It can also help reduce heart disease, diabetes, and other illnesses, just allowing people a safe, comfortable place to get out and be active. There are numerous economic benefits to sidewalks, so this comes from the AARP, just a quick livability fact sheet. You see 8 in 10 Americans want to be in a community that allows you to walk. And I guess that is my signal to be time. Yes?
Yes. I'm assuming by the amount you're asking, and maybe I missed it in your presentation, but I don't think I did. Are you looking at just one side of the road?
Yes. Yes, and that's what Athens in Motion recommended, was a 5-foot sidewalk on one side of the road.
A couple questions. Has any attempt ever been made to just reduce the speed limit, or is reducing the speed limit part of this proposal?
It's not part of this proposal, and this gets back to current policy, as Drew mentioned, does not allow traffic calming on arterial or collector roads, which is Vincent Drive. So current policy would not allow you to reduce the speed limit on Vincent Drive. So that sign is what they do.
And so, I mean, anyone who's been on this road knows that it's a crazy speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised we actually haven't had a bunch of fatalities on that
Right.
road. But does the traffic calming SPLOST proposal have to be accepted and implemented in order for that policy to change so that the speed limit can come down? Or do you
Not necessarily, but there would have to be funding to bring that speed limit down. So the way Georgia sets speed limits, it allows pretty much the drivers to set their own speed limit, because you just use a radar gun and you say, well, 100 cars are going along Vincent Drive, 85 are going below this speed, so that's what the speed limit will be. So without doing some sort of engineering intervention, it would be very difficult to lower the speed limit. So some funds would have to be used.
Policy or an Athens-Clarke County policy?
For speed limits?
Or not being able to, needing a policy to bring the speed limit down on arterial?
In the past, it's been probably a little bit of both.
Okay, and actually that was it. This is really important. Like, it's crazy actually how dangerous it is. There's a lot of kids who live on the street that walk over to Holland Park.
Yes, we'll go Tracy and then Ben.
I like the project. I guess I have a question about pricing, because Drew just said he's doing a 22 mile or proposing a 22-mile sidewalk project for 11 million.
Right.
So somewhere around 500 to $1 million per mile.
So this is about 1.5 miles. So the construction costs alone come in under just over $1 million. So it's in that range, maybe a little higher, but it's in that, and this is an estimate, so it's in that range of what Drew was suggesting. It's a little less than $1 million a mile for 1.5 miles. And then in this, since I took the data from Athens in Motion, so this is the SPLOST spreadsheet that you do when you're applying online. Here's the Athens in Motion data that I plugged into that to get to that construction figure. And so there's a lot that goes into it outside of just construction alone. You have putting the signs back. You have curb and gutter. So right now there isn't any curb and gutter, so we put curb and gutter in. That raises the cost quite a bit. Landscape and things like that. And then the 20% contingency fee as well. So there's sort of two contingency fees built in. One through the Athens in Motion estimates, and then again through the SPLOST estimates. So it's probably hopefully a high estimate, but not that much high.
So you're saying it's been vetted out. So I guess I have a question too about comparing this project to the one proposed in Tallahassee. That was proposed bike lane, right? That
was a 10-foot bike and pedestrian concrete path. So this is half.
Yeah, so it was like 9.8 for 2.8 versus 2 million for 1.4. Why did you choose the bike lane for that area and sidewalk for this?
Because the Tallahassee was suggested as part of the Greenway network to get out to the Tallahassee forest. So they wanted people to be able to walk and bike and take advantage of those amenities. We hear the recommendation was we need sidewalks, really, because we want to get people using the bus. And so we want if we can just get people out to the bus stops, give them a safer place to wait for the bus, and probably based on expectations of who would be out there using the street.
Did you mention a university operation that provides some of these?
They provide the crash data for a lot of folks around the state.
What is that?
It's the UGA Traffic Safety Research and Evaluation Group. It's in the School of Public Health. So they do a lot of.
What do they do?
They do a lot of traffic analysis. They also evaluate a lot of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety grants to make sure that people are doing the right things to try to make our streets safer.
Athens-Clarke County has access to all that information.
And more, yes. Yes.
This may be for actually Keith. I noticed on the pictures that there don't look like there are any crosswalks there, and I don't know that. So, but there are a lot of bus stops. And I noticed there's a lot of gullies and stuff you'd have to fill to put in the sidewalk. And I'm not sure if it would be on the side where the bus stops are or whatever, but it seems like crosswalks or flashing lights or something with a 45 mile-an-hour speed limit would be awfully good to have where the bus stops are. Do you have to have concrete or sidewalks on both sides to have a crosswalk like that?
No, that'd be a Drew question.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Drew's lived out.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think so.
It seems like with the sidewalk comes some other necessities that would
Yes.
be important. You really have to get on one side of the road.
Indeed, and certainly if they kept it on the side where the bus stops are right now, it's opposite of Holland Youth Sports Center. So you'd like to, but I felt that was a little outside the scope of this project right now.
I'm just
but
saying
yeah,
that,
absolutely.
that if something gets started like this, it might be advantageous to consider some of the other really important needs, especially if you can't change that speed limit.
Right.
I mean, just because this proposal is only says sidewalks, we would do a design of it, and if the proper design said a painted crosswalk needed to be here, that would be factored into the design. We try to do it all at one time.
Can I assume you've been having ongoing conversations with the Department of Transportation and Public Works?
Yes.
I was looking at a project that was presented to us earlier tonight that
Yes.
Vincent Drive is on.
Yes. So I asked. So you're asked to talk.
I'm looking for what
Yeah.
the connection is.
Well, I talked to Drew and I said I'm going to submit a project for Vincent Drive, and given that there's so many miles of needed sidewalks, he was like, if there was dedicated money for Vincent Drive and we absolutely knew, guaranteed that it was going in, we just pick another street and pull it right up the list. So it would allow more to get done. As he mentioned in the T-Splosh conversation, Jefferson River Road was presented as a standalone project. and then ultimately it was dropped from the list and included in the buckets. And so, given the need on Vincent Drive, I didn't want to take the chance of having it fall back to a budgetary discussion again and again. And also, given the strict budgetary limits y'all have, we don't know if that pedestrian bucket will have all the money there. So if that gets reduced, it makes it less likely for Vincent Drive to get built.
Other questions? Thank you, guys.
All right, you're welcome.
I have a question for the group outside.